Hey, what's up? I'm Allie, and welcome back to my channel. We have some books to unhaul. Quite a lot of books, actually. I've been going through my library. I'm trying to declutter my life, and one of the first things I decided to focus on in the year was my bookshelves. There was no room to add any of the books that I had gotten over the past few months. To go through it, the new year is a great time for me to start this process. So these are some of the books that I have pulled. I say some because I feel like throughout the year, I'm going to continue pulling books to unhaul as I am more and more honest with the fact that, like, I'm not going to read this or I'm not going to have time to read this. Like, technically 5 categories, I believe, here. So I'm not going to read physically, nor do I feel the need to own. If I'm going to read it, it's most likely going to be on audiobook or from the library. So I don't need to own them. Then we have a stack that's just, it's been on my shelves for far too long. I haven't read it. I don't plan on reading it. Probably needs to go. Then we have my duplicates. Don't need duplicates. And then we have the ones that I've read and I either haven't enjoyed or just don't feel the need to keep them. And then the last category, which is the category we're going to start with, my self-destructing books from last year. I said, when I did an unhaul last year, I said, these books, if I didn't read within a year, they had to be unhauled, and guess what? I don't think I read any of them. So it kind of hurts a little bit because some of these are ones that I feel I really wanted to get to, but last year just wasn't a year for reading, apparently, except for rereads. I really am, like, in my reread era. 2 David Sedaris books, and this is Naked and Me Talk Pretty one day, and honestly, I don't feel too bad about getting rid of these. They're not anything that I'm like, oh my god, can't believe I didn't get to those. This one, though, On the Spectrum, is one that I'm a little upset about getting rid of. This was a gift. It's also something that I'm very interested in, but I just didn't get to it in that year, and it's been on my shelves for years now, so maybe I'll find it in audiobook. If not, clearly it hasn't been that urgent in my mind. Beyond, these are so dusty. They're so dusty. Beyond the Black Door, The Tattooist of Auschwitz, as well as Sarah's Key. The Diviner's Game. This one sounds so interesting. Why didn't I read you? Why didn't I read you? The Coldest Touch. On the Flight of the Queen, which is, this was an arc that came out in 2019. Also, the Splintered series. This is an older series, and it honestly probably doesn't age super well, but you know, I'll never know now. And The Novus. So now she is empty and ready for more self-destructing books that we'll see if I actually get to. Let's start with the ones that, like, I'm still interested in, but I don't feel like I physically need to own. Now, a lot of these are going to be Book of the Month. You're going to see a lot of Book of the Month, but that's also because I own a lot of Book of the Month. Once upon a time, they would send me every book that they had for every month for like a year and a half straight. So I have a lot of them, whether or not I actually felt that I would read them in a timely manner. So, although some of them are interesting, I'm probably not going to get to them. And again, are probably things that I would rather listen to and things that I probably wouldn't own. I'm getting more specific about the things that I just want to have in my own library, and it doesn't really have a lot of contemporary or a lot of literary fiction, which sounds like it could be a very heartfelt read and something that I would really need to be in a specific mood for. We have In Every Mirror She's Black. No clue where the dust jacket is for this. Not a clue. I feel like it might have come as a stand-in for another book. Because they would do that sometimes. They would send me the cover of a book, but with a different book inside because they couldn't send me the actual book. Imposter Syndrome. People Like Her. These get, like, very similar vibes, even though I know they're not the same. Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I don't read a ton of sci-fi, and I don't think that is something that I would probably read once and, like, I would enjoy, but probably not need to own. The Golden Couple. I don't tend to love a lot of family-based thrillers. We Are the Brennans. It really depends. Small town drama type stuff, yes, but when it's like, I don't know, just really super family-centered, it's a little different. I Know You Remember, which also goes with The Lies You Never Told Me, and I actually think I have multiple copies of these as well. And I have no memory if I read these. None. Waiting for Eden. Don't know where this even came from. It sounds intriguing. I looked it over and I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty Cool. This is another 2019 arc that I didn't get to. The Light of Days. This is about the women's resistance in World War II. But she's chunky, and I don't got the brains for that right now. Lilac Girls. Like a love story. This is a YA that is based around, I believe, the AIDS epidemic. It's definitely about the queer community in like the 80s. We Are Okay. I remember picking this up because everyone was hyping it up, but at this point, like, I have such a very specific tolerance for YA contemporary type books, and I just don't, this one's just not hitting the mark for me right now. The Breakdown by B.A. Paris. B.A. Paris has just so many books. So then there's also Bring Me Back that I'm getting rid of, and while I know that they have a ton of books, and I feel like I would probably enjoy them, I don't know where to start, and I don't think I need to own them. Thrillers are weird because I enjoy reading them, but I rarely feel the need to own them. The Magnolia Place. Palace. Sorry, it's not even the Magnolia Place. The Magnolia Palace. Can't even say it correctly. The Heart Principle. Helen Huang's other book, which was the Kiss Quotient. I really didn't enjoy the Kiss Quotient. I actually kind of hated it. So this one's like, would I read it to try to give this author another try? Maybe. But because I hated the first one so much, I'm not super intrigued to read this one. And then True Biz. And Sister, Mother, Warrior. This is an arc. And I do think at this point I would probably just want to read a finished copy. So those are ones that I'm still interested in reading probably at some point, just not in the near future. And then we have the ones that have just been on my shelf for too long and need to go. It's time. It's time to admit I don't have time for these. Nor do I feel the need to make time for these. Give the Dark My Love. YA, fantasy. Again, I have a very specific threshold, I feel like, these days, and this one isn't hitting it. It just doesn't sound like I'm going to be overly impressed with this one, about two characters who are, I believe one of them is in love with the other. I don't know if that means that they're going to be romantically involved or not, but a plague is happening in the world, and she becomes kind of like entranced with like dark magic, I believe, and he is upset because he doesn't feel like he's going to be able to save her from that. And it just sounds kind of bland, you know. This is Hate Ship, Friendship, Courtship, Love Ship, and Marriage. This is a short story collection. I love short story collections, but this one in particular doesn't intrigue me. I like short story collections that are based around just like myth and fantasy and just horror stuff. And this one just seems so mundane. I'm already living the mundane. I don't need it. The Beyonders. I feel like I had this in an unhaul before, but I found it on my shelves, and I don't know if I had other ones in this series that I unhauled, maybe. I have no clue. I don't even know if this is even the first in a series, but I think this is actually middle grade and not anything that entices me. All the Stars and Teeth. Although I've heard decent things about this, again, not one I'm going to make time for. The Lantern's Ember. This one skims by on my unhaul list every single year. Every year because I think the cover is gorgeous. But I'm not going to do it. Every year it makes it past, and it's been like 5 years now. I'm so sorry. It's time. The Curse of the Spectre Queen. I'm kind of like over. I think this, I don't even know. Is this like a retelling of some sort? Probably. Yeah, this is an Indiana Jones retelling, and I have never seen Indiana Jones. So I feel like I'm not really going to appreciate it. The Flame in the Mist. I think this has been on my shelves for 7 years now. Like, I own this in my OG, like, booktube days. And it's been many years. I think I'm going on like 10 years or something on booktube. Beast Maid of Night and Crown of Thunder. These were sent to me by the publisher years ago. And again, YA fantasy is just not super high on my radar these days. Again, Brilliant Death also sent to me. I think this one was sent to me. I don't even know. I think the problem is like I've just reached a point where so many YA fantasies just sound the same to me. It's just like there's a young girl who is probably from royalty or something, or she ends up finding royalty, and like there's something happening to the kingdom of some sort, and like she has to do something about it, or the town is under under attack and like she's gonna be the one to save the day, and I'm just kind of like, oh, kind of burn out on it. Sal and Gabby Break the Universe. As much as I love Rick Riordan Presents books, this one isn't super high on my list of ones to read from that. It seems much more silly. A semi-definitive list of worst nightmares. This one sounds interesting, but I feel like it just does not call to me. Does not call to me these days. Under Rose Tainted Skies has also been on my shelves for far too long. When We're Vikings just lost interest. The Devouring Grey. I feel like this book had its moment, and that moment it's gone. It's vanished. It has fleeted. And so, same with this one. It Cursed So Dark and Lonely. I think this is actually even an exclusive of some sort, maybe? I don't know. But it's a Beauty Beast retelling. I am so over Beauty and the Beast retellings. I'm so over them. There are so many other fairy tale-esque things to do. Thousand Lanterns and Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix. Just not really. These were sent to me as well. Not something super intrigued by. Black Pearls, A Fairy Strand. I think this is a middle grade. This copy is not in good shape, and I've held onto it thinking that it would be just like a cute read to do, especially because it's blurbed by Holly Black. But I feel like I could probably just borrow it from the library if I'm really that interested. Courting Darkness. I feel like this is a spin-off from a series. I feel like when I first got it, people were telling me that they loved the original series that this is a spin-off from, and I did not know that, nor is it a series that I've read or have any interest reading, I feel like, at this point, so maybe someone else will like it. This is, I feel like I was going to unhaul this once, and I didn't unhaul it because it has good reviews, but at the same time, it romanticizes being in love with a Nazi soldier, I believe. Storm Siren. Doesn't this just give you, like, early 2000s vibes? Daughter of the Burning City has also been, I feel like this is one of the first books that was ever sent to me by a publisher, which is why I hold on to it. But I really don't care about it. Oh, these ones hurt because I love these covers so much. It's Queen of Hearts and Blood of Wonderland. Oh, I love these covers. They're so fun. I love this design, which is why I keep holding on to them, but it's apparently not enough to make me read them. I mean, they're like stunning. They're stunning. But I'm just not going to. We're not going to look at it anymore. The Glass Castle. I sometimes get, I feel, persuaded to look into books because, of course, there's a lot of hype around them, but also because people are like, it's being made into a movie and like everyone's reading it, and I feel like I should know what it is because everyone else is intrigued by it, and it seems to be caught up by like even like non-readers are reading it kind of deal. So then I end up buying them, and I, even though I have no actual interest in it, it's just like I feel I need to know the thing. Is that a Gemini thing? I don't know. Maybe. Annalise Rising came in a book box that I don't believe exists anymore and hasn't existed for some time. And although the premise of the overall book box seemed really cool in that, like, you would read the book and they give you a letter that you would open after you read the book, it still wasn't enough to convince me to read it in several years. 920 London. This isn't really my thing. Not my thing. This is also an arc, I believe. I wasn't interested. I think the only thing that made me intrigued by it was a doomed romance between two emo kids. That was about it. But, like, this isn't my thing. The Edge of Anything. I've actually heard really good things about this. But it's just so bland looking. Like other girls, I am not a sporty person. City of Orphans. This is a middle grade, and I am just very picky with my middle grade. The Merciless has also been on my shelves for so long. I do believe these covers have gotten a makeover, but these ones I think are better, and they're also, like, textured and whatnot, and they're very cool. I thought these were so interesting when they came out, and so I've hung on to it because it's just, like, a very visually interesting book. I'm not gonna read it. And then Dare Mighty Things. just been there far too long. And we have books that I have doubles of. So this is Amulet. I recently hauled a new version of this that is like brand spanking new. This copy, even though it's hardcover, it is really beat up and not in good shape, and it's kind of falling away at the spine. So this one can go. A few Saga volumes that I have accidentally gotten multiple copies of over the years because I can never remember which ones I have and which ones I don't. So I keep accidentally buying them. This is an ARC version of And the Ocean Was Our Sky, which was gorgeous, but the overall book, the finished book, is much more gorgeous than this plain thing. I have multiple copies of Tell Me What Really Happened and Dead Girls Can't Tell Secrets. They actually sent me the ARC and the finished copy a few months later, so I'm just going to hold on to the finished copies. Similarly, I can never remember which Dear America books that I have. I have fixed this problem, by the way, of not remembering what books I have. But I keep accidentally buying multiple copies of Dear America books. So My Secret War and I Thought My Soul Would Rise and Fly were ones that I had bought multiples of. And these ones were a little worse for wear than the other ones that I have, so they'll go. And recently sent me a signed copy of Lullaby, so I'm going to be getting rid of this copy. Chris had so kindly gifted me this book, but it didn't arrive originally, and so it was sent again, so I ended up getting 2 copies of this book, and that is First Person Singular, Haruki Murakami, and so I don't need 2 copies of it. Ooh, this one hurts a little bit. This one hurts a little bit. It's Heartstopper, Volume 2, but specifically the Fairy Loot edition. I know that someone is going to be seeking this out, but I own the rest of the series in paperback because after I bought this one, first of all, I missed out on the first one, and then I bought this one, and then I was like, I don't really want to spend the money to own the rest of them, so I only have this one in the Fairy Loot edition. Let me move you. We've made it to the last stack, and these ones are ones that I've read and either haven't enjoyed or just don't feel the need to own anymore. Maleficent. It was a very cute read. I don't need to keep a copy of it. It wasn't like amazing. It's literally just the same thing that you watch in the movie, just in book form. This one's a bit of a mixture because I own multiple copies of Wicked As You Wish. I got sent the ARC years ago, and then it took forever to come out with the second one. And I enjoyed this, but it wasn't my favorite. And by the time the second one came out, they had redone the covers and everything, and they sent them to me, and they sent me the sequel. But at that point, I had forgotten much of the first one and also remembered it wasn't so amazing that I felt the need to reread it. So I'm not gonna keep them. Zodiac Star Force. I love this one. I love this graphic novel so very much. They only ever made 2 volumes of it, and then I believe it has not been worked on since, and that's been years and years. I don't know if it was canceled, if it went on hiatus, if they were just done with it after volume 2. It didn't feel very done, and while I love this, I feel like I'm not going to continue to recommend this or reread it because it's unfinished till like the end of time. Avant Cards. This one was really cute, and I really loved it, but again, it's sports-based, and I don't need to own it. I think I would probably continue reading this. It's not one that I plan on collecting. This is one that I actually really didn't like, but I ended up buying most of the series. That's Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I don't have the dust jacket because I think this book is gorgeous naked, and once upon a time I just threw book jackets away because I'm a monster. So I ended up having the rest of the series because I had anticipated really liking it, but I actually really did not like the first one. I think the movie's better. Just saying something, because I don't think many people enjoy the movie. So I think it's time, even though I know these all are gorgeous. I know that they're all gorgeous naked. Like, I just know it. Yeah, like, they're all just stunning, beautiful naked. And, like, I've held on to them because I'm like, these could be super gorgeous just display books. I don't need them. The Game. This is on a DNF. Actually, my Mark's still in it. I was enjoying this when I was reading it, but the moment I would sit it down, I would forget about it. And then I would have no interest to get back into it, and I'd almost be forcing myself, and I just reached a point of, like, exhaustion with it, where I was like, I just kind of want it to be done, even though, like, it's not bad. I just want it to be done. Babel. I actually own 2 copies of Babel. I own the Fairy Loot edition, and I did decide to hold on to the Fairy Loot edition, even though I didn't love this book. I thought this book was fine. I didn't really get the hype. I thought that it was basically beating the reader over the head with what it was trying to say, and I didn't appreciate that. Lux Beginnings and Lux Opposition. These actually made it through a unhaul challenge before, and I was like, I'm gonna keep on to them because even though they weren't great, I sped through the series like no other. Like I just couldn't stop. It was just like, I don't know, reality TV. I just couldn't look away. I was entranced. I just binged it like no other. But now that some time has passed from the high that was reading these, I don't want them. I'm not going to finish the series, nor am I really interested in keeping them. Monsters Born and Made. I enjoyed this when I read it. I tried to find a sequel. I don't know if there is a sequel. This is also an arc, so it can go, which is in training. I believe this is a middle grade graphic novel. It's really short, really cute, and not one that I plan on collecting the series. The Adventure Zone! I actually loved this first one, so much so, clearly, that I own it, and then I read the second one and I hated it. Comic version of a D&D campaign called The Adventure Zone, and I feel like I would probably enjoy this much better if I just watched them actually doing the campaign. Cold Storage is another one that I enjoyed when I read, but don't ever plan to reread. Wolf of Oren Yarrow. I disliked this book. I wanted to love this book. It's one of Starzy's favorite books. I wanted to love it, especially because like the first thing is that it's like about a bitch queen. They call me the bitch queen, the she-wolf, because I murdered a man and exiled my king. Like, that sounds so cool, right? It's so boring. It's so boring. The characters are just so one-dimensional, and they're so annoying. Like, everything reads is so monotoned. Girl Serpent Thorn. Look how gorgeous this is. It's so gorgeous. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It's so gorgeous. I don't want it. I tried to read it twice. I DNF'd it both times, and I really wanted to love it. But I can't even remember. Even both times that I tried to read it, I like couldn't remember anything about it. This is right behind you. This is one of the first thrillers that I ever read, and so I thought it was a masterpiece. I don't know if it actually is. I've recommended it before because at the time I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But since then I've read so many other thrillers that I don't know if this would still hold up to my standards of a thriller. I'm Not Dying With You Tonight is an arc, and while I enjoyed it, it's not one that I plan on rereading, and I think someone else would actually love to read this in their collection. And Lies You Never Told Me, I own... Is this that one? This is the one that I have the other copy of, and I could never remember. I didn't even realize I had two copies of them until I was going through this, because the covers are so different. And I still could not tell you if I read it or not. I feel like I did, but I have no clue. None. It's in this, like I read it. And it looks like I read it. Last Voyage, A Poe Life. This was one of my first ever sponsor videos, and I read this, and it was fine. It was enjoyable. I liked it when I read it. Don't think I would like it today. Don't ever plan on rereading it because I probably wouldn't. Jacoby. This was really cute when I read it. And I know that this is a full series, and while I feel like if I had continued reading the series when I read this, I probably would have really loved the series. But because it's been years since I read this, I have no interest in continuing the series because so many other things have come out in that time that I feel like would probably be better. Undead Girl Gang, I've only held on to because of the cover. I think this cover is so cool. I really didn't enjoy this book. I slogged through this thing. I've only held on to this because it's Marissa Meyer and I love the Cinder series, like the Lunar Chronicles so much, but I really didn't like this. I thought this was I love Alice in Wonderland retellings, and there's some really fantastic ones out there. This one isn't one. The Museum of Heartbreak was one of the first YA contemporaries that I really fell in love with, and I've held on to it for that reason. But I don't plan on rereading this. I feel like I have so many others that I've since read that I love much more. And while I think this cover is really cute, I do think that someone else could really find love in this as well. These ones hurt a little bit. These are the Emily Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigma Broca books because I really enjoyed their first two, but since then I haven't enjoyed at least their YA books that they've released. So Time of Our Lives and What's Not to Love were just kind of fine to me. Actually, I feel like I didn't like this one at all, and this one was fine. They just didn't live up to the hype of So Always Never Yours, and if I'm being honest, were some of my favorites by them. I loved those, but these ones just don't. I just did not enjoy these ones. And while I would love to own most of their books because I enjoyed the first two, considering how many have been done since then, it has put me off a little bit to reading anything that they put out since. I held on to The Maidens because it's cover, but I can't justify it anymore because this book fucking sucks. That's it. I hate it. It's bad. God, I saw the plot twist coming from a mile away and I was like, hopefully we're not going there. We're certainly not going there, right? I can see all the red herrings that we're placing right now. Like, certainly we're not going there. And we went there. Disappointing. Dry. I love Neil Shusterman, but this one is probably on the lower scale for me of his writing. I think that, like, the apocalyptic world of, like, there's no water left is terrifying. But I think that this was just overall fine. The Lake, I think I DNF'd this. Did I finish this? I don't even know if I finished this, if I DNF'd it. I see this author's books all the time and the covers are very intriguing. Like, they're very simple, but like mysterious. And so I'm always drawn to them, but I don't think I've enjoyed the ones that I have picked up from this author. And I just think they're fine. I think they're great for beginning YA readers. I feel like these are like a great introduction into the thriller genre. Burn Down, Rise Up. I wanted to love so bad. I really did. But I think this book was just trying to do far too much with all the things. And so I was getting a little lost in the sauce. Pretty early on, and also just like really losing interest because we were kind of just like all over the place trying to do things. And I think the premise of this is so cool. I just really didn't like the way that it ended up being laid out. Another DNF, Veil of Truth and Trickery. This one also is going, this is like, I don't even know, fan fiction to A Court of Thorns and Roses kind of deal, where like she gets stolen away into the Fae world and like all the different Fae men like basically fall in love with her and like have sex with her. The Post Shadow I DNF'd in a DNF challenge video. This was just so dense, full of nothingness. Give me nothing. Serving nothing, but a shit ton of words that mean nothing. Honey Girl is also a DNF. This is about two women who get married in Vegas and decide to keep doing it. They decide to really try a relationship. And while I thought the overall premise was interesting, this was just so boring. It was so boring. Sex Criminals. I have tried to unhaul this before. And I tried to take it to my book thrift store, who you can get store credit for when you take your books in, and they won't take it. Which is weird because I've definitely seen this on their shelves. But I hated this graphic novel, and it's just been like, every time I look at it on my shelves, I just cringe because I'm like, I just want it gone. So at this point, I'm just gonna see if anyone at my work wants to take it, and if not, I don't know. I'm gonna leave it somewhere. Fangirl. This is a special edition one, so I've held on to it, and I enjoyed it when I read it, but I don't really enjoy Rainbow Rowell. I've hated some of the other things that I read from this author, and also does not have the best track record. Just saying. But this one is just not, I remember having issues with it when I read it, and even though I loved it then, but I do think there's so many other YA contemporaries that are better than this, and I don't need to hold on to this nostalgia. Like, it's kind of even lost its nostalgia for me over the years. Dating Dr. Dill was fine. It was fine. And then two that just were like disappointing when I read them. The Demonic, I just think so many other books have done a haunting house much better, like a possessed house better. Although this one was really creepy, I just felt that it could have used some editing, and also just, again, it was fine for, you get what you get with this one. And that's great. And then Dracula My Love, which I went in absolutely loving, but unfortunately it follows Dracula a little too closely in the fact that the middle is just a snooze fest and drags on with a bunch of just like useless information instead of just actually getting to the things that we care about. Give me Dracula. That's what I'm here for. Give me more Dracula. I don't care what Mina and Jonathan are doing in their spare time. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there are other books. I know that I have a bag of books downstairs that are also on hauls, but I don't feel like carrying them up. And I feel like I already talked about them in at least one video. Self-destructing books with some other ones on my shelves, so we'll see if they make it through the year, and hopefully I'll do some more unhaul challenges throughout the year to really parse down to my collection to something that I just really love. And again, I love rereading books, so I really want a collection that I would feel comfortable, 1, recommending, 2, rereading, or 3, things that I feel really enhance my collection. Because at the end of the day, this is a collection, so there are reasons why I own multiple copies of things and why I have special editions. But I want to be very selective about those things and not just have things just because they're pretty or because I heard so-and-so like this book and therefore I should own this book, or because I've set in my mind that like I'm a reader and therefore I must have these certain things in my collection or else I'm not a reader type thing. So trying to be a bit more selective. It's very hard as someone who likes to hoard things. It is very hard for me to get rid of things a lot of the times. These will likely sit in my car or my basement for like 6 more months before I actually take action, because at that point I've forgotten about them enough that I'll just be like, I just won't look at them. I'll just take them in the box. We won't look at them. We won't think about them, and we'll get them gone. Anyway, thanks for watching my unhaul. I'll see you next one. Bye!